Some men break, others build while bleeding. This isn't a story for the ones who've had it easy. This is for the men still standing with wounds that haven't closed, who keep showing up while no one's clapping, no one's watching, and no one understands the cost. This is for the man who didn't ask for this war, but chose to win it anyway. The world teaches us to wait until we're healed before we rise. Wait until it's perfect. Wait until we've figured it all out. But the ones who build while bleeding, they know the truth. If you wait for peace, you never build. If you wait to feel strong, you'll never move. You build anyway, because something sacred happens when you don't stop, even when it hurts. When the pain doesn't shut you down but sharpens your focus. When your bleeding hands still hold the hammer. When your cracked voice still speaks vision into dry bones. There's a moment every man faces, a quiet fork in the road. One path says, collapse. The other whispers, construct. Not for applause, not for revenge, but because there's something in you that refuses to die quietly. Pain doesn't mean you're finished. Pain means you're in process. Bleeding doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been called to build something bigger than your comfort. You're not weak because you're wounded. You're not behind because you're tired. You're just in the middle. And the middle is where most men quit. They start with fire, they end with smoke. But you're still here, breathing, believing, bleeding, building. Let's talk about what that takes. First, it takes silence, not noise, not distractions, not other people's opinions. The man who builds while bleeding knows how to get quiet enough to hear the next brick calling. Because when everything in your world feels like chaos, clarity isn't found in the crowd, it's found in the stillness. Silence doesn't mean you're doing nothing, it means you're tuning in. Because when you're bleeding, the noise outside becomes dangerous. Everyone has advice, everyone has opinions, but no one else feels the pulse of your purpose like you do. The ones who finish the wall are the ones who stopped asking for permission. Then it takes restraint. Because when you're bleeding, the easiest thing to do is lash out. Bleed on people who didn't cut you. Swing wildly. Prove a point. But the builder doesn't waste energy on chaos. He saves it for creation. Restraint is power. It's saying no when revenge would feel good. It's choosing focus over fury. It's trusting that the pain won't last, but the thing you're building will. And yes, it takes faith. Not the kind you talk about when things are easy. The kind you grip with white knuckles when everything in you says to walk away. The faith that says, I don't know how this ends, but I know I'm not finished. That kind of faith doesn't shout, it whispers. It crawls some days, but it always moves forward. Most men think strength looks like a full tank. The man who builds while bleeding knows the real strength is when the tank's empty, the wounds are fresh, and he still pours a foundation. You don't build because it's easy. You build because not building would destroy you. Because something in you knows. If you stop now, the pain wins. The past wins. The story ends where the wound was. And that's not your ending. There's something sacred about unfinished structures, about walking into a half-built vision with dust on your boots and resolve in your chest. You look at what isn't done and you say, I'm not done either. No one claps for that, no one sees it, but you feel it, you know the cost, and you know the reason. Sometimes the reason isn't loud. Sometimes it's a face, a child, a future, a promise. Sometimes it's the younger version of you that swore he'd never settle. That version of you is still watching, and he's waiting to see if you meant it. So let's be clear, building while bleeding is not about perfection. It's not about speed. It's about refusing to let your wounds write the final chapter. It's about laying one more brick, saying one more truth, holding one more boundary. You don't owe the world your comfort. You owe the future your construction. And yes, people will misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed. You'll hear, you're not as nice as you used to be. And you'll smile because they're right. You're not here to be nice. You're here to be necessary, to build what only you can build. Bleeding changes you, not into someone bitter, but into someone battle-tested. You stop looking for easy. You stop craving applause. You stop explaining your blueprint to people who've never held a hammer. You learn how to keep the vision sacred. You learn how to pour concrete with tears in your eyes. You learn how to rise without revenge, to create without clinging, to lead without noise. The man who builds while bleeding knows that resilience isn't a feeling, it's a decision, made in silence, maintained in solitude, proven through repetition. You want to stop some days? That's okay. You still build. You want someone to help? That's human. You still build. You feel tired, forgotten, overwhelmed. You still build because there's no arrival for men like you, just deeper roots, higher standards, clearer purpose. And yes, you'll bleed again. You'll be misunderstood again. You'll outgrow people again. But next time, it won't break you because now you've built something inside that can't be shaken. That's the gift of bleeding while building. You don't just construct something external, you construct yourself. A man who doesn't flinch, a man who doesn't fold, a man who doesn't forget who he is when the storm hits. And eventually, the blood dries, the pain fades, the vision sharpens, and you realize something. You didn't survive this. You sculpted through this. You didn't just rebuild a life. You reforged a soul. So here's what I want you to remember. The world doesn't need perfect men. It needs present ones. Men who keep showing up. Men who keep laying bricks even when their hands are shaking. Men who don't need the wound to heal before they keep building the wall. You are one of those men. Whether anyone sees it or not, you are the man who builds while bleeding. There's a moment in every builder's life when the pain no longer surprises him. The wound is no longer new. It's familiar. You've stopped asking why it happened. You've stopped needing to explain it. Now you just carry it quietly. And that's when the real work begins. Because there's a difference between being hurt and being hardened. One makes you wise, the other makes you bitter. The man who builds while bleeding chooses wisdom. He doesn't swing wildly anymore. He doesn't fight every battle. He picks his bricks carefully now. He's not building fast. He's building forever. And that's the shift most people never make. They let their pain turn them into fighters. But the builder, he becomes a founder, a man who lays something down, not just for himself, but for the ones who come after him. He starts thinking about the long road, the weight of legacy, the sound of footsteps behind him, and he asks a deeper question. What kind of road am I paving? Most people react to pain, but the builder responds. He turns betrayal into boundaries. He turns loss into language. He turns silence into strategy. He doesn't ask, why me? He asks, what now? Because eventually you realize the wound will either be a wall or a window. And only you can decide which one it becomes. A wall keeps people out. A window lets others see in. And if you let it, your story becomes a lighthouse, a guide for others still in the dark. That's why you don't stop, even when it hurts, even when the weight feels unfair, even when no one claps. You keep building because your strength is no longer just about you. It's about who you're becoming and who's watching. People think the real pain is in what happened, but the deeper pain, the pain most men never talk about, is who you had to become because of it. The version of you that stopped trusting so easily. The version that watches the room a little longer before speaking. The version that doesn't believe words, only consistency. The version that's done performing. The version that stopped waiting to be chosen and just became the standard. That's the version of you that gets built in the bleeding season. And once he's built, he doesn't go back. There's no reset to who you were before the pain. That man is gone, the one who rose from it. He's the one we need now. The man who builds while bleeding isn't bitter, but he's changed. He's quieter now, not because he has nothing to say, but because he's finally listening to what matters. He knows how to walk away without flinching, how to say no without explaining, how to let people misunderstand him and still keep building. He knows how to choose his peace over their approval. And that might be the most sacred shift of all, because when you stop building to prove something, you start building from presence. Presence is power. It means you're not just reacting, You're not addicted to validation. You're not swinging hammers for applause. You're creating because it's who you are. You stop measuring progress by how it looks and start measuring it by how it feels, how aligned, how rooted, how true. That's the energy shift the bleeding builder discovers. And with that shift comes clarity. Clarity that says not everything deserves your effort. Not everyone deserves access. Not every opportunity is aligned with your design. You stop chasing and start choosing. And in that clarity, your circle shrinks. The noise dies down. And the real foundation gets poured. Not the foundation people see, the one you feel. The one built from discipline when no one's watching. From morning rituals that reset your mind. From the decision to show up for your son, even when you're exhausted. From not texting her back. From choosing legacy over lust. From writing SOPs when everyone else is watching Netflix. From putting your name on systems that outlive your presence. That's the builder's edge. He understands that every decision is a blueprint. The texts you send, the clients you take, the habits you ignore, the way you show up when you don't feel like it. These aren't random, they're bricks. And brick by brick, the man who builds while bleeding lays a structure that others will stand on. He doesn't just survive, he raises foundations. He becomes the man his past self prayed for, and he does it without noise, because at some point you realize noise doesn't build anything. Noise distracts, noise manipulates, noise wastes the man's breath who should be pouring concrete. So the builder learns to protect his focus, to remove himself from the drama, to silence the scrolling, to leave the group chat, to guard his gates like his future depends on it. Because it does. And through that silence, through that clarity comes strength. Not the strength people post about, the kind you feel when no one texts you back and you still show up like a king. The kind you live when she doesn't apologize, but you stop bleeding anyway. The kind you use to finish what you started without needing a witness. That kind of strength, it builds things that last, because there's no inspiration in pretending. There's only inspiration in becoming. Becoming a man who doesn't crumble, becoming a man who doesn't chase, becoming a man who doesn't dilute his vision to make others comfortable. That's the man your son will learn from. That's the man your future partner will trust. That's the man your younger self will finally be proud of, not because you're perfect, but because you built something sacred while you were still bleeding. And when that day comes, when the dust settles, and they ask how you did it, you won't need to say a word. They'll be standing inside what you built. Every builder reaches a moment where he stops looking outward, not because the world got easier, but because he finally realized the blueprint was never out there. It was always within. He doesn't need motivation anymore. He's not driven by pressure or performance. He's not fueled by proving anyone wrong. That phase is done. Now he's pulled by vision, by clarity, by conviction. He knows who he is, even when no one else does. He knows what he's building, even when it doesn't make sense to others. He knows where he's headed, even when the path looks unfamiliar. This is the final phase of the bleeding builder. Not survival, not resilience, but sovereignty. Sovereignty is when you rise, not from rebellion, but from alignment. You don't need to fight anymore. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify your silence, your standards, your solitude. You've built something inside of you now, a foundation no storm can touch. You've made peace with what didn't happen. You've released the apology that never came. You've buried the version of yourself that used to beg, chase, explain, hope. You've laid it all to rest. And in its place, you've raised something immortal. Because what you've built now isn't just a business, a brand, a reputation. You've built a life that matches your values, a life that doesn't require you to pretend, a life that holds space for pain and power, a life that doesn't rush, doesn't panic, doesn't shrink, a life that can bleed and still build. That's rare, that's sacred, that's you. And now you become the blueprint for your son, for your team, for the men who are watching quietly, waiting for someone to show them what's possible. You don't need to tell them what to do. You show them by who you've become, by how you speak slowly, by how you say no without guilt, by how you honor your mornings, by how you choose purpose over pity. by how you don't abandon yourself, even when it would be easier to escape. That's what legacy looks like. It's not built in public. It's not loud. It's not posted. It's lived. It's how you handle money when no one's watching. It's how you speak to your ex when you could humiliate her. It's how you pray when the results haven't shown up yet. It's how you show up for your son after the courtroom, after the letdown, after the silence. That's where men are built, and one day the bleeding will stop. Not because you ignored it, but because you outgrew it. You learned to build through it, and it lost its grip. You'll look back at this season, and you won't recognize the man you used to be. The man who needed affirmation, the man who gave too many chances, the man who apologized for having standards, the man who thought pain was a prison. He's gone. In his place stands a builder, a man who knows how to hold pain and peace in the same breath, a man who knows how to construct meaning out of chaos, a man who lives by code, not convenience. And the best part? You're just getting started, because now you build with full strength, with clear eyes, with clean hands, with a soul that's no longer bleeding, but blessing. You don't carry wounds anymore, you carry wisdom. You don't chase anymore. You call in what's aligned. You don't hustle for attention. You build for eternity. And if you ever start to forget who you are, just remember this. You are the man who built while bleeding. And nothing, not betrayal, not heartbreak, not exhaustion, not rejection, nothing could stop you. So imagine what you'll build now. Now that the wound has become a weapon. Now that the pain has become purpose. Now that the man who bled became the man who leads. Let others guess how you did it. Let them wonder where you went. Let them be surprised when they see what's standing where you used to be. Because when they finally see the empire, you'll know the truth. It wasn't built in comfort. It wasn't built with applause. It was built in silence, while bleeding. And you never stopped. You are the man who builds while bleeding. And now you rise.